Okay, so we're in the last line here on Zayin Amud Aleph and Makkos. B'shul bar Nachman b'shem Rabbi Yonasan. You never say name Rabbi Yonasan. B'chol makom shenemar dibur. Any place it says the word dibur in the Torah, chidush mikra sham. There's something. There's a chiddush there. There's some implication of something new and not something we didn't know previously. So the Vaksiv by the Ber Elokim v'chulei, and so that by Daber Elokim. Well, actually, before we go on with that, let's see the Pnei Moshe because it explains something here. Over here it says, "V'lo matzinu b'chol sefer Yoshua, v'chein b'chol sefer Nebiim, kim lashon bayomer." In the Torah itself, it's full of Vaydaber because there's lots of chidushim in the Torah. But in the Navi, it never says the word Vaydaber, except there's one place in Sefer Yoshua, okay, where it says, I should have started over here. The line, let's go back for it. Tina Dixie over here. Yoshua guy, partially Mikla Vaydaber Hashem, Yoshua Lemor Daber Bnei Yisrael Lemor Tilachem or Mikla. Lamatina B'chol Sefer Yoshua. Only says Vaydaber. Why? Because you can't chiddush mikra, because it's a chiddush. What's a chiddush? Because mitzvah ksuva Torah. It says to fulfill the mitzvah. It says in the Torah. In other words, the mitzvah of Torah mikra, as it's written in the Torah, wasn't yet fulfilled because Moshe Rabbeinu only set aside 3 cities. We know they weren't collate until 3 cities were set aside on the other side of the Jordan River. So therefore, there's a chiddush mikra here, which is the mitzvah became operative at this point. And then it's the next thing Moshe says over here, garsa, which is this word over here in the Gemara, shas mekatzer b'kushia v'aterus. It says garsa means here, like insert here, and the Pnei Moshe says what's supposed to be inserted here. So he says it's lying on four midrashei Chazal, and it's no. The It's assumption, the question which we should have here, which we should insert here, is that you find the word dibur where it doesn't need to have any chiddush involved. And sometimes it's a lashon dibur has a different meaning. It's the lashon of kasha when Hashem speaks tough to Moshe Rabbeinu. When Hashem says, "I am Hashem," and he's saying that I'm going to bring the Makkos on Mitzrayim. So, he's responding to Moshe Rabbeinu's complaint. Mishani Garsoa Klamar Kmadasir Medrash Shadoshu Chazal Daberito Mishpat. He spoke to them harshly, with judgment. In the Parsha Shmos, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, "Why did you do bad stuff to this nation? And why, since I came, it's gotten worse for them." As it says, a language of Dibur, right? So that's But the name of the thing says, "What about the fact that there's no chiddush? Torah doesn't tell us any chiddush halacha there. So Garsa, insert here the answer which is given in the Medrash. The answer which is given in the Medrash is that that there it had a different kind of meaning. There the meaning was that that Hashem spoke tough to Moshe Rabbeinu because he was rebuking Moshe Rabbeinu for asking that question of why things weren't going well. Okay, now the Yerushalmi asks, "Mal vayesh b'imam." So the Pnei Yoshua explains, "Yoshua ksiv sham, v'nas el echad elarim chadarim eila." Somebody who kills should go to one of these cities. Gomer, basful so ir alehem. They should gather them into the city with them. Naslu makom, and they should give him a place. V'yeshav sham imam, and he should sit there with them. Okay, so it seems to be unnecessary. Can't see basful so ira. Naslu makom. It says, take that murderer, bring him to the city, and give him a place. That's enough. Imam lamali, right? What's the additional language of Yerushalmi Makkos. So the Moshe says the Gemara is going to answer. Ella lemedrash v'loshen yeshiva v'beis havad is Rabbi Shila. It means if he's a Talmid Chacham, you should set up for him a yeshiva there. That's what it says. Rabban the case from B'Shem Rabbi Shila says Shemira Talmid Chacham osin lo beis vad. Beis vad is the gathering place, but the gathering place specifically for Talmid Chachamim. So Shlosh Fish Moshe Yardi. Moshe Rabbeinu says like 3 cities on the east side of the Jordan River. In Shabbat Lawrence, once they came to itself, Fishu Od Shalosh. That's another thing. Asi Lovo and the eventual future. And Fishu Od Shalosh could be another 3. And then so spans further. Then Shalosh, 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 Harei Tesha. Abba Shol Omer, Abba Shol says the more. And the Cormier in the Brack says that the gears here is messed up. It should be Shalosh al Shalosh with the word al in the middle. Hare Sheish, that makes 6. The Od Shalosh and another 6, another 3. Hare Tisha, that's 9. Al Shalosh on the 3. Hare Shnei Mosar. So it says he takes account all the words in the middle. It says al. And it says Od Shalosh. It says again Al Shalosh. So he says really it means ultimately going to be 12. The 3 which Moshe Rabbeinu set aside, and another 3, which makes it 12. And Ray Omer, Rabbi Roy says also here it's short. It really should be much more extended, but it's the same idea. Shalosh Harei Tesha the Od Reish Nemosar. So he was saying that no, it says Shalosh 3 times. That's I just wrote this right. Shalosh Harei Tes the Od Harei base Ala Shalosh Harei Tes Vav. So he learns that the 3 is 9, and the Od is a separate word, and that makes it 12. The 12 plus the 3 which already existed. Because Moshe Rabbeinu set aside 3. There he comes out a Tesvav 50. So all this in the eventual future. Always when Eretz Yisrael expands much further, they're going to need more Orim Mikvah. Shishton Koltim Kachas. The Semar Achen. So it says that the 3 Orim Mikvah are supposed to be collate, absorb the killers at the same time. So how are you saying they're going to add on later on? So I'm not sure exactly what the question is, why it's such an important question, but it's the answer is simple, that obviously something's going to happen in the eventual future, which hasn't happened yet, which is going to make what requires to have this additional Arim Mikvah. But the Yerushalmi just asks a question and leaves it dangling. Anyway, V'saya Kai Demar Rabbi Shul B'Shem Rabbi Yacha. Tamisha Don Chosem Mikdash Achron Mikdash Rishon. This is going on something else. If you take a look over here, in Pnei Moshe, there's a new sugya. It says here. Asoy Kai Demar Rabbi Shul B'Shem Racha. Amastisa Kai Echad Mashul B'Shem Mishcha V'Echem Ruba Begadim. It said the Kohen Gadol can be a Kohen Gadol whether he's anointed with the oil, which was the first base on Mikdash, or in the second base where he didn't have the oil, where he had additional garments. He at least had the 8 garments of a Kohen Gadol. And this is going, says Gemara, like Rabbi Shmuel Shem Rabbi Yacha, who said Chamisha Dvarim. There are 5 things. Chasem Mikdash Achron, which is the second base, which was lacking in the Mikdash Rishon, which the first they had in first base Mikdash, not second base Mikdash. You see, it says Alu Ahar Be'Besim Eitz the Gomer Ad V'Chabda Achabei V'Chabda. And the word V'Chabda says the end we are telling them what they should go in order to build the second base on Mikdash. But then it says at the end, and I will have honor, says Hashem, from the second base on Mikdash. But V'Chabei, see, even though it's supposed to be pronounced The chabda with 8 it's missing a. That the Kree and Ksiv are not the same. So the fact that the hay is missing, Chazal Darshan. These are 5 things which the second base of Mikdash was lacking from the first base of Mikdash. And these are they. Aish, in the first base of Mikdash, there was a fire from Shamayim, which they didn't have, and which never went out. They didn't have in the second base of Mikdash. That miraculous fire. Aaron, they had the Aaron, which one of the last kings, Yoshio, hid away. There was no Aaron in the second base of Mikdash. Urim V'Tumim. They had the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol with the letters, but in order to light up, they had to have a certain piece of cloth with a certain inscription inside the folds of the Choshen. They didn't have that. So the ornament to the lights which would light up to tell them what to do, we didn't have a second base of Mikdash. Shemen HaMishcha, the light, the oil to anoint the Kalim and the Kohen Gadol, they didn't have a second base of Mikdash either. Yoshio also put that into Kiza. The Ruach HaKodesh, and there was no Nevuah anymore. The last Nevi'im were Chagayim, Zechariah, Malachi. They were Nevi'im at the very beginning of Bayis Sheni, and afterwards there were no more Nevi'im in Am Yisrael's history. Amar Abai. Okay, so this is a new thing. Amar Abai, Talmid Chacham tzorech lefarsim etzmo. A Talmid Chacham has to publicize himself. Okay, so he has to publicize himself in a very interesting way. What is it? What does he have to do? Hech barnash the chacham, hech also barnash the chacham chara mechla. If a tam chacham knows one mesechta, mechla is a mesechta. A mesechet literally means a keli from which you pour, and the mechal is a keli which contains something. So the mechal and mesechta are the same thing. So he knows one Mesechta, but Asar goes to a place. Vina mikrayin lay karuchacham trey the Yakrin lay. Sorry, karuchacham trey mechile. They give him covered as somebody knows 2 Mesechtas, right? He only knows one Mesechta, and they give him covered as if he knows 2 Mesechtas. So tzarich lamarlon chadam michla nechachim. He's got to tell him, no, I only know one Mesechta. He's got, in other words. He can tell them. He should tell me he's a Talmid Chacham, but afterwards he has to tell them, I only know one Mesechta, not 2 Mesechta. So he shouldn't be makbid that they don't give him more cover than he deserves. So when Abai starts a Talmid Chacham says Parsim Esmol, you think he means person that's going to tell people it's Talmid Chacham, but Abai means no. But if they think you're too big a Talmid Chacham, they're mistaken. You have to tell them exactly how big Talmid Chacham you are, even if it's much less. Rav Huna Omer. Rav Huna said an interesting thing. The question is what he's going on. Rav Huna said, Omer b'safa rafa v'ayimim sh'tol kabel. Now, if you take a look at the Bnei Moshe here, it brings out 2 parts of b'safa there. He says here, b'safa rafa v'ayimim sh'tol kabel. Amach sh'chol b'shvis. It's about, he's saying the one meaning is that it's about after Arab Rosh Hashanah this year, when you have to write a proof bill, otherwise all the debts are canceled. So let's say the borrower comes to you afterwards and wants to give you back the money. So so if somebody comes, the borrower comes to me and says, I want to pay you back, I have to say I'm mishamek. I have to say I'm mishamek, that I'm not going to accept it, right? So what if the borrower says to me, nevertheless, I want to pay back? You can accept it from me. You can do it in a way which indicates that you clearly want the money back. You can whisper and hold out your hand at the same time to get the money back, right? So you can say very softly, you don't want to get paid back. Perhaps even the other guy can't hear, and at the same time hold out your hand to make sure you get the money back. To immediately accept the money back when the guy offers to you, even though you said you're masham. That's one shot, but that's really not relevant to this Gemara. The second shot is more relevant. Inami milsad Ravuna high to the el mispar. So then what we said before. Atam chacham glomer. The nil mabidin the machzor chovish fias. The chayka was there. Who has to tell them that he only knows one Mesechta, not two. He could say it with his soft voice. I only know one Mesechta. At the same time, have his hand out to get the honor which they're trying to extend to him. So, in other words, you don't have to embarrass yourself, right? You could, if you have to go out and say, "No, I'm an ignoramus. I don't know one Mesechta, two Mesechtas," at a very loud voice. Say softly, okay? But make sure to tell the truth, but you don't have to compromise your position. You can say it softly and have your right hand out to accept that covenant. Okay, so it says the Gemara, my timer. Now here it says Rabbi Yehuda, but down here in the Gillian Ephraim, he says that that's not the right Girsa. Ephraim says it should be my time. Benom Yerushalmi goes my time de Rabbi Yossi bar Chama. The Shomer Asisi B'chil Echad Shoev Echad Mezidin Kimatin. It says initially both the Shogi and the Mezi to go to Mir Miklat, right? Because Ki Chamavo v'Chashusho Shiaro, because the Goel Adam gets upset. His heart is really a flame. I'm afraid Shiaro B'Mezi to kill a deliberate a murderer. Amazing, guy could be amazing. Believe in Sanhedrin, right? But he won't wait for the Sanhedrin to judge him. Also, because we know once in the Sanhedrin had lots of ways to try and save the murderer. Right? Kiva said he would only have because somebody killed once every 70 years. It's in Sanhedrin. So therefore, even amazing, it's worth his while to go in front of the Sanhedrin. Maybe they're going to find a way to not have to put him to death. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. My time with Rabbi Yossi Bar Chama, because Godam is so upset, he might kill the murderer before the murderer gets a chance to stand to trial. Okay, that's the next Mishnah says so here, if you take a look here in the Moshe, it says the Chosem is Sheni. That which says in the Mishnah that he goes back and the death of the second Kohen Gadol, one who was alive at the time that his Gemara Din was issued. Saying it's true if the second Kohen Gadol dies before the Gemara Din. Then the Gemara Din takes place afterwards. Goes back when the third Kohen Gadol dies. He always goes back when at the time when the Kohen Gadol, who was in office at the time of the Gemara Din, when he dies. Okay. Rabbi Avo, Sarch L'Davar. This is also in the Bavli. If they need some, just not like this. Plus, if they need something from this guy, let's say he's a big general, right, and he can help them win the war. So if they need him for something, they can take him from there. So it's not, which seems to argue on the Mishnah. The Mishnah seems to say not like that, right? But Moshe says the Sar Rabbi Avo had the time of Mishnah Masis Einot Semisham, how we can't leave there Lola Edus Mitzvah, even to testify in a case of mitzvah. So if the other people could take his place and testify, Lasos can do what he could have done. But there's nobody else to do what he could have done. Like he was a big general, then they wouldn't send for him. That's more no. That's not what the Mishnah sounds like. Okay, Mishnah doesn't seem to see that. Mishnah says, even the Jews need him. Even if he was a general like Yoav ben Tzruya, was the greatest general of the time, and so he can't leave even if Amisol needs him because he's supposed to be there. The way the Mepharshim explain it, even though he's kept alive, it's as if he's dead. And therefore, just like you can't bring a dead person out to be a general because he's dead, so to this Rotzach B'Shoigeg has to be regarded as being dead. And therefore, you can't call on him to leave the Ir Miklat to go help. But it's very strange. I assume that there are really extenuating circumstances where they would get the guy out of the Ir Miklat, but sounds to Gemara from the Pasha shot that there were no such cases. Okay. Next Mishnah. Umalos Schar Levim. So Umalos Schar Levim. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. This is Sesame Moshe. It's not talking about the cities. In the other 42 Ari Levim, the Rotzkim didn't get a free ride. In the 6 Ari Mikla, the 6 major Ari Mikla, they got a free ride. But in the 42, they had to pay the Levim who are the Baal Baki. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Right? Meir said, no, even in those cities, they didn't pay. Because of but once Kohen Gadol died and he goes free, he goes back to the initial position of honor which he had previously. Divrei Meir. No. Once a murderer, always a murderer. Even when he gets out of this prison, so to speak, the Mikla, he goes back to his original city, he doesn't get the same honor position which he once had. Okay, Tani, you learned. Here it says Rabbi Yehuda Omer, but the Ilin Ephraim down here says Tani Rabbi Yossi Omer. Machlokes Nitnu, they're given for division. Mermer Lebeis Dina, Lebeis Dira Nitnu. Okay, so what does that mean? So let's go back here. Tani Rabbi Yossi Omer, closely to Rabbi Omer Lebeis Dira Nitnu. This should be Rabbi Meir Omer, according to the Gilin Ephraim, and according, he says here, also the same, similar. You change this here, but in any event, Rabbi Yehuda Savar Shenit Lohem Lechelkam Mamish. In other words, the Ari Levim, the 42 cities, not the 6, they belong to Levim, just like the rest of the Shvatim got land, they got land, and this is their land. So just like the rest of the Shvatim, if you wanted to go live in a Shevet's property, you have to pay rent that Shevet. So too, if the Rotzeach is living one of the 42 Ari Levim, he's got to pay rent to that Shevet, to the Shevet Levi. That's Rabbi Yossi's opinion, right? Rabbi Meir holds no. The base there need new. They're allowed to live there, living, but it's not their nachla. It's not their portion. They didn't get a portion, right? Yaakov cursed them. Achal came Yaakov Afitzim B'Yisrael. They didn't get a portion, so therefore they can't demand rent because it doesn't really belong to them. They were given the right to live there on a permanent basis, but it doesn't belong to them. They could charge other people rent. Now Gemara says the side of the Rabbi Yossi, right? We changed it yesterday to Rabbi Yossi because of this line. The side of Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi, who says that it was given to they were given that land as a nachla. Like Rabbi Yehuda says that they did that. That's why the murderers in those 22 cities had to pay rent. The Rabbi Meir, who says it was given the base dira, kedaite. It's like his opinion in the Mishnah. Which means that they didn't have to pay rent because it didn't really belong to Levim. They just had the right to live there. So those are the parallel shitos. Okay. Actually, it should be the other way around. In Malosi Schalavim Divya Rabbi Yehuda. And right, Meir Omer Lo Yilma Schalavim. I'm not sure how that happened, but the Gemara says obviously some of the names got switched around. Okay, Rava b'Shem Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Zir b'Shem Marukva said, "Ein mekajim el b'chevel shel chamishim ama." By Egla Rufa, there's halacha they have to measure. We had this in passage parsha. So what happens if you come to a hill? How do you measure? So according to, you don't measure the slope of the hill, right? This is you measure. Somebody stands at the top of the angle, and the next guy here they're using a rope of 4 amas. It's the same principle over here. And you eliminate the slope by having one person put it there from his arms towards the other guy's legs. So you see, that eliminates hypotenuse of the. You don't go by the hypotenuse of the triangle, which is the longest side, but you go by the as the crow flies, so to speak. So that's when you have to go up and down a hill. You don't measure the slope as the slope is, but you do this. It's called makadron. It's like drilling drilling a straight line into the mountain. Well, you don't drill it literally, but it's like as if you drilled a line into the mountain to make it straight. Okay, so so Gemara says here, "Ein makadron el bechebel shel chamishim amma." In order to remove the slope, the rope uses a 50 amma rope, which is a pretty long rope. So Rabbi Zeir Shem Rav Chisda Omer, "Ein makadron lo b'Orei Levim v'lo b'makom egla rufa." He says, you know what? We don't do that in Doraisa. In Rabbanans by Eruv, we do that. In other words, it gives you extra space, extra tchum, because you get tchum Shabbos is 2,000 amos, and it'll give you more space if I do it that way, which I eliminate the slope, because then in fact I'm giving him a few extra amos each time I eliminate that slope, right? Because I'm not measuring the slope itself, I'm measuring as a crow flies. So in fact, he's going to get some extra amos. But the tchum of an ir miklat, which is 2,000 amos, is the doraisa, right? It's not the rabbanon. And there, the 2,000 amos being doraisa, Mora says I have to be machmir. I can't give him the extra measure, which I would get by not measuring the slope itself. I have to measure the slope itself. As also true, that's why Or Levim. Also by Egla Rufa. Egla Rufa is the right. So also I don't do that trick of eliminating the slope. I have to go and measure the slope itself. Right? The Sai Commander Elf Amma Midrash. This is going according to opinion that it says 1,000 amos around the city are an empty space, right? Orei Levim. And afterwards, Valpayim. Now this here we have the I have to switch the girsa. It has to be Sai Commander El Vamamigrash Valpayim Sadus Ukrami. Take from the next line. Sadus Ukrami. Right here, Chaim Kanievsky makes this change in Erevin, right? That if you hold those are the Doraisa, 1,000 amas of empty space, and then another 1,000 amas of fields and vineyards, and that's the end of the Tchum Orei Levim. That's the Raisa, right? Baram Kamandamar El Migrash Apayim Tchum Shabbos. There's another opinion which goes, no, really,
Rabbi, I need to go now to get ready for shul.
Because it's a contradiction in the Torah itself. The Torah, one place says 1,000 amas is Mikrash, and 1,000 amas is Saras Ukrami. So the first opinion knows they both are that you get 2,000 amas. First 1,000 is empty, and the next, so it makes the city look nicer. Don't have things growing in front of it. And the next 1,000 amas is Saras Ukrami. So then those 2,000 amas of the Tchum Ir Miklar the Raisa. But according to Man Amar, that Elf Mikrash Valpai, the Elf Mikrash and is the same thing as the Saras Ukrami. There aren't two separate ones. There are two 1,000 amas which moves around the city for either Migrash or Kramim. Alpayim Tchum Shabbos. 2,000 amas is Tchum Shabbos, and that is we're Mako by Tchum Shabbos. Okay, so Klum Tchum Shabbos lo me Tchum Orei Levim. So ask Gemara, well, wait a minute. Don't we learn Tchum Shabbos from Orei Levim? That's the case. Leikar ein Mekadrin with Fela Mekadrin. I understand. If we're not going to do this eliminating the slope by the source halacha, which is by the Orei Miklat, we're going to do it by the derived halacha, which is Tchum Shabbos. How can that be? The source doesn't do it. He can't do it in the derived halacha either. So the Gemara doesn't answer it here, but the Moshe brings down that in Mesechta it says, in fact, what he said before, that depends. It's the rice of the rabbanon. Chum Shabbos is the rice of the rabbanon. Therefore, he can be mekadron. The 2,000 amas of the Orei Levim, 1,000 amas by that. The other opinion are the rice, so you can't do mekadron. You covering Orei Levim. How you know you can't bury people in the cities of Levim? Rabbi Avo They have to bury outside the city. But we say even the murderers, right? The murderers who now have to go, their bodies aren't allowed to be brought back to their hometowns until after Kohen Gadol dies. I know you don't bury them. It says even the areas around the Ir Miklat, right? They should be for yards and for animals and for their property and for all their chayos. Now, the word chol chayosam is extra, right? It already says lebehemta. And if it's only that chay is supposed to be, it should say lebehemta uchayosam uchusha. But the name is the chayos together. So why is the word chayim separately? The chayim nitnu v'lo likvura nitnu. The area of the Ori Levim and the areas immediately surrounding it is given for the purpose of the livelihood of the Ir Miklat and not for the purpose of burying people. So therefore, if you bury people, you have to bury them either more than 1,000, more than 2,000 amas away from the city of Lubin. And that is the end of the Yerushalmi on Makkos. The rest of Mesechta Makkos, which is the third perek, and the Yerushalmi is only Mishnayos. There's no Gemara. So Yeshkoyach Rabbi Yisrael. Finished till the end. Mazel tov.
For Egor Rufa, did they measure based on the roads or based on the distance?
Based on the distance. They didn't measure the roads.
Good.
Even though there were roads and the guy would have probably traveled by roads. Good question. In the roads, the guy would have probably traveled by road. They still measured distance and through the mount, whatever the shortest distance was.
Also, for it mentions 5 stuff missing. I also remember learning that there were bird spikes on the second base of Mikdash, but not on the first, because the first had Kedusha that the birds wouldn't land there. But
Yeah, right. They didn't need to have the Kli Orev. Right. That's good. Yeah, that's right. Very good. Okay. Okay, Rabbi Say, that brings our shir to an end. If either any of you want to keep learning during the year, let me know. I'm happy to learn with you. Just contact me by email or text and let me know. Okay?
Thanks for learning with us.
Look forward to seeing you next week. By the scene. Take care.
Thank you, Rabbi Ofer.
Okay, have a great year.
You too. Bye.